Hello and welcome to today's tutorial. So today I'll be showing us how to make this simple Ankara dress for your little one. It's simple but it's beautiful, I bet you. So I added little volume to it just to make it look a little full. So join me while we start. Okay, so I made this for an 8-year-old child. She's not chubby. So I went ahead to mark out my basic bodies. I've done this before, so just watch, follow the steps, practice and replicate. You can decide to make it in another pattern, but this is just a guideline. So I went ahead to mark out my neckline, my shoulder line, the armhole. I came down by 5.5 since her shoulder is 11. Came down for my armhole by 5.5. Her chest is 6, that's 24. I added 2 inches extra allowance by the sides, so I went ahead to cut out. So you can decide to use any neckline of your choice. So this is me cutting out the back part. So I placed my front part on the back material. I left an inch allowance for my zipper. That's the only difference. I left an inch allowance for the zipper. Just cut out the same, just like the front part. Every other thing is the same. Then the neckline, I used 1.5 for the depth and the same 3 for the width. So I went ahead to cut out my neckline. So I opened up the zipper allowance. So for the lower part of the skirt, I cut out 2 inches material length. Then for the width, I used her actual length, added extra inch for bending. So I went ahead to cut out the lining part of it. And for the lower side, just to give it that fullness, I cut out a 180 flay where I'll be attaching my net to give it that volume. So after cutting out this one, I cut out another piece for the lining. So I'm going to go ahead and mark out where I'll be imputing my net. If you've watched my videos, you notice I have a video on this. So here I will not really take my time as I did in the other video. If you do not understand this, I'd advise you go watch the other video on how to achieve fullness for skirts. So I'm going to be using just 3 steps for this. Since I don't want it too full, I'm using just 3 steps. So if you notice, all these lines I'm marking, these are where I'll be sewing my net on, my tulle net on. So welcome to my sewing table. I went ahead to, I'm going to turn the neckline, turn my shoulder. I'll be adding sleeves to this, so I won't be turning the armhole. So I'm going to turn, this is my back neckline. I'll turn my front neckline and the back neckline, as you can see. So this is me turning the shoulder side. So I put the front shoulder inside, in between the back shoulder. Then I sew on it. Exactly what I'm doing here. So you can see, this is for neat finishing. So I'm going to do the same for the other shoulder. I put my front or back in between the other parts and sew on it. So please subscribe if you haven't done so. Subscribe, hit the notification bell, like, comment, just give us a thumbs up. We are really trying. I hope you're enjoying the videos. If you are not, please try and enjoy these videos. I am doing it with my whole heart. So after turning out my shoulder, you can see I finished turning out the other part. So I'm going to go ahead. Then I had to add a little fancy to the front part of the dress just to make it look a little stylish. So I went ahead to measure out 4 inches, although it would be better to be more. You see, it's looking very tiny here, but if you can measure more net, it will be better and finer. So I used 4 inch in length, in width, then in length you can make it as long as you want. So this is for the lower part. I'm going to go ahead and sew on each of these parts, each of these lines marked. So sorry, I did not really explain that belt part. You just, after measuring 4 inches, or you can measure 10 inches just for fullness, then you can make it as long as you want. Then I went ahead to top stitch. After top stitching, I matted it, as in like you are weaving hair. I matted it to the length I wanted. So back to this side. So I'm done sewing my net on the lining. So this part remaining will be used to attach on the main bodice. So I'll go ahead and sew this, sew the net on my material. I measured 7 inches. And I'm going to mark out where I'll be sewing my net on. This is just the style of the dress, just a little fancy instead of leaving the dress plain. So I went ahead and gathered on it. Then for the main skirt, I'm going to gather all through. After gathering, I'm going to join it to the net I had already sewn. Just what you see, it has given it a little volume. So I went ahead to attach the lower bodice to the net. This is just for volume, it is not compulsory, but just to give it a finer look. It makes it look finer instead of just leaving it to fall flat. So after joining this now, I'm going to go ahead to attach the belt, that woven net, to my front bodice. So I'm done attaching. I'm going to go ahead now and hold both sides. This is shaping now. Remember, I left 2 inches, so I'm going to mark out those 2 inches and sew on the remaining parts. I'm sure you can follow me. I know I'm a little too fast, but if you watch, you can understand even without me saying anything. So please, if you have not subscribed, do well by subscribing to this channel and remain blessed. Hit the notification bell. You can share. It doesn't cost much, it doesn't cost anything. Just learn, watch, and make for your babies. So I'm going to do the same for the lining part. This is just to achieve a neat look, neat finishing. So I sew on my net part differently. So I'm done shaping it. So I'm going to go ahead now to join the lower bodice to the upper bodice. So I'll make sure I sew in such a way that those writings will not show. That was the aim. So I notched both the upper bodies and the lower bodies, so I do not overuse one side. So you see, both notched parts will be facing each other while I sew on it. So after sewing on it, after joining it, I'll go ahead and do the same for the lining part. So you can see how arranged I'm trying to make it so it doesn't puff. So if you notice, I am sewing only the front bodies. The main bodies, the lining will be sewn differently. So you can see those writings are no longer showing. So you can decide to do any style you want. You can be creative with this. This is just for illustration purpose. I made this for one of my girls around, so I decided to share. So I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing for the lining. I notched both the middle of both parts, the lower and upper body. So I'm going to join. See, you can see how neatly finished it is. No, you won't see any joining, any line. So I'll go. Okay, I went next to cut out my sleeve. I measured length 7. I'm going to gather a little. Okay, I'm going to make small pleats, then gather down, add a little elastic on it down. Just watch, it is self-explanatory. So I'm going to show you how I made this sleeve. So I went ahead to sew on this. After sewing on this, I ran tiny pleat on the upper side. Then I'm going to use elastic on this lower side. I measured elastic of 6 inches. So I went ahead to run tiny pleats and it just to give it a puffy look. So you can go ahead and add lining to this sleeve, but I didn't see it as being necessary, so I did not bother adding. So I measured 6 inches in length of elastic, half-inch elastic. So I'm going to sew on it and stretch it as I sew. You can see it's very easy. It's easy to do. It is easy to sew. Please, anywhere you're having challenges or issues, you can drop in the comment section. If there are things I can handle, of course I will. So I went ahead to hold to sew on the allowance, 1-inch allowance that I left. So you can see, isn't it beautiful? It is. So our armhole length is 6. That's 12. 6 by 2, 12. So I'm going to go ahead to trim my main armhole on the dress so it fits with this one on the sleeve. So you can see it's 6. So I'm going to go ahead now and attach both parts. I started by attaching from the midpoint. You see how beautiful and neatly finished it is. So let me show you how I attached the sleeve. See the middle. Went ahead and attached it to the middle of the bodice too. The joining there, I will now sew from there and turn round. That's all, as simple as ABC. So next is to attach a zipper. So I'm going to do an inseam finishing zipper. I started by sewing on the material first. Then I'll now use the lining to turn it. Just watch and learn. It looks magical, but it's not. It's very easy. So I went ahead to sew on the main cloth first, the material first. Then after sewing on the material, I will now use the lining to turn it, to give it a neat finishing. I don't know if you know how to sew zip on a dress. Just watch. Oh, my camera is not so clear. See, it was even getting dark and I was still sewing. Oh, good. So I'm turning inside out to sew the other part of the zipper. You see? Making sure that both the joinings are on the same line. Please, if you have not subscribed, do well by subscribing to LittleStitch by Amara. Give us a thumbs up for this video, share, like, and comment. Thank you. I hope you're enjoying our videos. Please subscribe so you can see me turning my zipper with the lining. So I made sure you can see I'm sewing very close to the first sewing, so it doesn't sew on it. So thank you for always watching. You can see neatly finished. So I'll just go ahead and move all those papers. Thank you for watching. God bless you.